So, great article, right? And some useful information in there. Happy hour, you may have heard this phrase probably before. It used to be an old term and was popularized during the Prohibition days of the US. People were very limited in their drinking options. It was technically illegal, but you could have a sly hour here or there where you could get your hands on some cheap alcohol in private clubs. So that changed again in the sort of 80s and 90s when people were getting more concerned about drinking and driving. Is the happy hour culture contributing to more people drinking and driving? I don't see the connection myself, but anyway, apparently. But now there are more options which help people get home without drinking and driving. So we see the resurgence of the happy hour culture coming back into American life.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that is good news for many people. Once a prohibition was repealed, that was great. But once these laws are starting to be repealed or amended, I think a lot of bars are going to figure out that it's a good business decision to have that happy hour coming. I think this is another good way because of the coronavirus to get businesses back on their feet, get the ball rolling with getting that income again. People are ready to go out and drink again, I feel like.
We've been stranded at home for too long.
It's too long now. Well, not for us, but maybe for other
countries. Not so much in Korea, but for many Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think this is definitely a positive spin on things. It was very funny, the statistics of the prohibition. They obviously don't have perfect numbers because of it being illegal, but the number of people who drank pre-prohibition versus during and after, but during the prohibition, it was insanely high. People before were like, oh yeah, a couple drinks here and there, and then prohibition happened and Americans were like, well, now we have to drink everything all the time, every night, because it's illegal.
They made alcohol cool.
They made alcohol
cooler.
More widespread. I mean, from the prohibition came NASCAR. And you know how many people drink at NASCAR? Everybody who watches it. As soon as you turn the channel to NASCAR, there will be a beer in your hand, Bud Light.
It just appears.
It just appears, and it's just the way it is. So yeah, the prohibition actually did for drinking, did wonders for drinking, much to the chagrin of those who wanted to ban, and still do actually.
Oh, I have to admit, it's one of my favorite eras of American history, the Prohibition era. Like, I love there's so many movies about that era, about the gangsters and the moonshine makers and the speakeasies, the jazz singers. It just looked the coolest thing ever.
It is, and it was the era where people started, for the first time, modding their cars to get away from the police. And that's exactly where modding car culture came from in America. And I would argue the world. It was pretty early in car history.
I guess so, 1920s.
So in England, I heard you don't ever get free food like you do in Korea.
No.
But do you ever have any discounts at bars?
Yes. Happy hour is definitely a big thing. There'll be certain times of the day or night that are not as popular with patrons to bars, pubs and clubs. So they just try and encourage more people to come at the unpopular times by offering happy hour, which was just amazing as a student.
Oh, that's right. The drinking age is a little bit lower, isn't it?
Yes, we can go from 18.
Oh, gosh.
And boy, do we.
And it's not really a guilty pleasure, is it? It's just a pleasure.
I do think the British attitude towards alcohol is a lot more laissez-faire. Perhaps to a bad degree. We take it as just normal to drink with food, to drink with dinner, to have a couple of drinks over the weekend, or a lot of drinks over the weekend. You won't get shamed for that, which maybe is a bad thing. I think we do drink too much in the UK, and we are utterly unashamed of that.
All those nice pleasures.
Yes. The non-guilty pleasures.
Yeah, not so much guilt on that one.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say probably it can be a guilty pleasure in America depending on who your circle is. If you're in a circle that accepts drinking, then great. If probably you are not, then you've got to be drinking on the sly a little bit more.
Has alcohol ever been banned in any country apart from America?
Oh, I see. Okay, so you changed the question on me because I was like, this is a perfect question for me. I know the answer. The original question was, has it been banned in your country? Obviously, yes. Other countries, the only thing I can think of is there's a lot of Muslim countries which may have bans on alcohol. Both purchasing, drinking, selling, all of the above.
Yeah.
But besides that, I can't think of any country that has tried to ban alcohol. As Americans saw, and the American government saw, if you don't have a really, really, really good reason to do it, it's going to backfire.
Yes. Yeah. No, not many countries have tried, again, apart from the Middle East, but that's very historical. Like, they have never had alcohol in those countries for probably a few thousand years.
Yeah. They've got some history behind it.
Let's take a closer look at the vocabulary in this article.
Sly.
Sly.
Prohibition.
Prohibition.
Repeal.
Repeal.
Cater to something.
Cater to something.
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure.